everybody! Today, Honey is going to continue reading Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger, written by Louis Tracker and illustrated by Tim Houch. Chapter 25, Guilty. Some of the children were working in their workbooks, others were reading in their readers, and still others were computing on the computer. Miss Nogard looked from one to another. Eeny, meeny, miny, Mauricia, she thought. Mauricia was stamping a stamp. Mauricia, said Miss Nogard, will you come here, please? Mauricia walked to the front of the room. Yes, she said cheerfully. Don't yes me, young lady, said Miss Nogard. You know what you did. Mauricia looked back at her teacher. What did I do? She wondered. Miss Nogard waited patiently. Everyone was guilty of something. I didn't do anything, did I? thought Mauricia. I've been good, I think. Unless she found out about the dictionary page I accidentally tore. No, she couldn't know about that. That happened before she even got here. And I don't think anybody saw me do it. I didn't do anything, she said. I probably should have told Mrs. Jules about it, she realized, but it wasn't even my fault. I was looking up to spell journey for my journal, and the page just ripped all by itself. It is the one thing to do something wrong, Mauricia, said Miss Nogard, but when you do, you should admit to it. We all make mistakes, but when you lie about it, you make matters much worse for yourself. Mauricia nodded as she tried to figure out what to do. If Miss Nogard knew she tore the dictionary page, then of course she had to admit to it. But there was no way Miss Nogard could know. It was impossible. I don't know what you mean, she said innocently. I didn't do anything wrong. She smiled at her teacher. Miss Nogard stared at her a long moment and said, Will you please bring me the dictionary? The smile dropped off Mauricia's face and crashed on the floor. The dictionary lay on the top of the bookcase. Mauricia numbly went after it. How could she know, she wondered. It's impossible. Maybe she just wants to look up a word. She carried the heavy book back to Miss Nogard. Thank you, Mauricia, said Miss Nogard, flipping through the pages. I need to look up journey. Mauricia couldn't take it any longer. I ripped it, she cried out. I tore the dictionary. I'm sorry. I don't even know how it happened. I was just turning the page. Really? Maybe pages only have certain amount of turns in them, like 999. Then when you turn the page for the 1000th time, it will rip, no matter who turns it. Miss Nogard sadly shook her head. I'm very disappointed in you, she said, but not only did you vandalize the dictionary, but then you lied about it. I thought I could trust you, Mauricia. I guess I was wrong. I'm a horrible person, Mauricia agreed. I'm sorry. Don't apply it to me, said Miss Nogard. It's not my dictionary. It belongs to the class. Mauricia had to stand in front of the class and tell them she was sorry. Then, since nobody would ever be able to use the page again, she had to read it aloud to the class. She struggled through the difficult words like journalism and judicious. Speak up, Miss Nogard had to keep reminding her. And everybody needs to pay close attention because there will be a test on it when Mauricia is finished. Hey, that's not fair, complained Jason. We didn't rip the dictionary. Why should we be punished? It's not punishment, said Miss Nogard. It's for your own good. Since you can no longer use that page, you need to memorize it. Thanks a lot, Mauricia, gripped Jenny. When Mauricia finished reading it, Miss Nogard made her turn the page over and read the back side of it too. I only read the front, said Mauricia, not the back. she finished, then returned to her seat angry and upset. She wasn't angry at Miss Noggard. Miss Noggard was just being fair, she thought. There was only one way Miss Noggard could have known about the term page, she realized. Somebody in the class might have seen her tear it and then tattled on her. She looked around the room, from Dee to Todd to Terence to Joy. She didn't trust any of them. One of her friends was a no-good, dirty, double-crossing snake in the grass. Chapter 26. Never laugh at a shoelace. This is a shoelace, said Mac. Everybody laughed. Mac was standing at the front of the room, holding his shoelace in his hand. He felt like a fool. What a fool, said Allison. It all started a minute earlier when Miss Noggard asked who has something to share for show and tell. But you first know about something of Mac. Mac's favorite subject in the whole world was show and tell. He loved it, especially when he was the one doing the showing and telling. He often looked through garbage cans on his way to school in search of stuff to show and tell about. Once he found a real gushy love letter. It was covered with something that looked like peach slime. But that wasn't what made it gushy. The gushy part was that written in the letter. Mac read it to the class with lots of feeling. So when Miss Noggard said, "Who has something to share for show and tell?" Mac reacted without thinking. His arm shot up like a rocket as he almost jumped out of his seat. "Ooh, ooh!" he groaned. Then he remembered something. "I didn't bring anything for show and tell." Miss Noggard heard him. Before he could lower his hand, he called on him. And that was how he ended up with his shoelace dangling from his hand like a dead worm. "It came from my sneaker," he said. He took off his sneaker and held it up too, next to his shoelace. "See, you stick the laces through these little holes here, then tie it in a bow. That keeps it from falling off your foot." "Duh," said Dana. "We know what a shoelace is," said Paul. "We've been tying my shoes when I was 2 years old," said Joe. Calvin and Bibi booed. "Sit down," said Jason. "You're boring." The kids in Mrs. Jones's class never used to be so mean, but they'd getting grumpier and grumpier ever since Miss Noggard took over. "Put on your shoe back on," said Marcia. "Your foot stinks." Mac felt terrible. Miss Noggard smiled. "Go on, Mac," she said. "We're all very interested to hear what you had to say." He tried to think of some way to make that shoelace interesting. "Shoelaces are really important," he said. "There was once a guy. He was a real fast runner. His name was Howard Speed. He was the fastest runner in the world. But this was back before shoelaces were invented, and so every time Howard raced, he ran out of his shoes. Nobody seemed very impressed. Then Randy asked, "Did it hurt his foot?" Mac shrugged. "I guess," he said. "I once stubbed my toe in a rock," said Stephen. "It hurt." "Yeah, but you didn't run as fast as Howard Speed," said Mac. "He ran so fast that he kicked the rock he would break his toe." "Did he have blisters?" said Todd. Mac smiled. "Man, he had the biggest blisters you ever saw in your whole life. Bleeding blistered. "Woo!" Joe and John said together. "With pus oozing out," said Mac. "Oh, gross," said Dana, wide-eyed. Everyone was paying attention to Mac now. "Whenever Howard went," said Mac, "he left a trail of bloody footprints." "Cool," said Terence. "So they had to invent something to keep Howard's sneakers on his feet," said Mac. "First they just tried nailing his shoes to his feet." "Yowza!" Bibi exclaimed. "Why didn't he just use Velcro?" said Jason. "Howard lived in Africa," explained Mac. "Velcro trees only grow in Australia. So they tried gluing his shoes to his feet. That seemed to work, but then whenever he took off his shoes to take a bath or something, he'd peel off a layer of skin." "Yuck, Ola!" shrieked Allison. But finally, Thomas Edison invented the shoelace, and Howard never ran out of his shoes again. Did he win all the races after that? Asked John. Well, said Mac, the next race was for the championship of the whole world. Howard got off the real fast start. It looked like he would win for sure, but shoelaces were still new invention, and Howard wasn't quite used to them yet. Right before he reached the finish line, his shoelace came untied. He tripped over it and fell flat on his face. He broke his nose, lost all his teeth, and had 2 black eyes. Wow, said all 3 Erics together. So remember, said Mac as he held up the shoelace high in the air, never laugh at a shoelace. Everyone applauded. Chapter 27. Way High Up Ball. Eric Fry, Eric Bacon, and Eric Evans were playing Way High Up Ball. They made it off the game themselves. All you needed were 2 things, a pink rubber ball about the size of a tennis ball and a real tall school. Eric Evans threw the ball way high up. It bounced off the school just above the 30-story window. 3-pointer, called Eric Bacon. They shoved and elbowed each other out of the way as she waited for it to come down. At the last second, Eric Fry jumped and caught it. He got 3 points. Eric Evans also got 3 points since he was the thrower. Eric Fry threw the ball way high up. It bounced off a window on the 5th floor. 5-pointer, called Eric Evans. All 3 Erics jumped for it. It bounced off their fingertips and hit the ground. The teacher on the 5th story stuck her head out of the window. Hey, what's going on down there? She shouted. The 3 Erics looked away and whistled. There's one more thing about Way High Up Ball I haven't told you. You're not allowed to play it. The Erics had already broken 1 window. Eric Bacon looked up surprised. Are you talking to us? He asked. Something just banged against my window, said the teacher. Was it a bird? Asked Eric Evans. The teacher stared at the children a moment longer. Then she pulled her head inside. Eric threw the ball way high up. It was a 6-pointer. All 3 fought for position as she waited for it to come down, but at the last second, her hairy arm reached above them and caught it. Cannot the arm be learned to Louis, the yard teacher? Can I play? Asked Louis. His mustache had grown back completely. Sure, all 3 Erics said together. What do I have to do? asked Louis. Just see how you can high up against the school, you can throw it, said Eric Fry. Louis gripped up the ball tightly in his hand. He reached way back, then let it fly. Wow, said 3 Erics together as she watched the ball throw up in the air. It hit above the 8th story window, and Louis caught it in its own rebound. 16 points, said Eric Bacon. Through grand, Louis, said Eric Evans. Now that Louis was playing, lots of kids from all over the playground came to play too. Louis threw the ball way high up. It hit above the 11th story, then bounced back over to everyone's head. There was a mad scramble for the ball. Phoebe finally came up with it. Give it to Louis, said Eric Bevan. No, let Phoebe throw it, said Louis, who always tried to be fair. Phoebe threw a 2-pointer. Jason caught the rebound. Do you want to throw it, Louis? He asked. No, you go ahead, said Louis. Jason threw a glopper. A glopper is when the ball goes straight up in the air and comes down without touching the building. Eric Bacon caught it. Here, Louis, he said. No, you can throw it, said Louis. But you can throw it much higher, said Eric Bacon. We want to see how high you can throw it, Louis said Lassie. Come on, Louis, everyone urged. Louis shook his head. The game's for you kids, not for me. Miss Nogard is watching, said Bibi slyly. Louis glanced at Miss Nogard, who was standing just outside the front door. Give me the ball, he said. The kids cheered. Louis reached way down almost to the ground, then hurled up with his all might. The ball reached 15th floor. halfway of the school. Wow! Everyone said together. I got it, said Terrence as he circled under the ball, waiting to come down. His knees wobbled. The ball bounced off his face. Cool, he said as blood flowed out of his nose. That's a world record, Louis, exclaimed Eric Evans. Louis smiled proudly. He turned to look at Miss Nogard, but she had already gone inside. You like Miss Nogard, don't you? Said Phoebe. She seems like a nice person, said Louis. She's pretty too, said Eric Reagan as she nudged Louis in the side. Well, she's kind of cute, Louis admitted. Ooh, said Joy. But do you love her? Asked Jenny. Everyone giggled. Louis's red face got even redder. You should ask her out on a date, said Eric Fry. No, I don't think that's a very good idea, said Louis. Why not, said Eric Evans. I think you should make a real cute couple. Bring her flowers, said Dana. Buy her candy, said Maricia. Tell her she got eyes like the moon, said Phoebe. Eyes like the moon? Asked Louis. Girls love it when you tell him that, said Louis. Forget that gushy stuff, said Eric Gregson. Just walk right up to her and say, Hey baby, how about a date? Just like that? Asked Louis. This is what you do, said Terrence. You take her to a real scary movie, and then at the scary part, you put her arm around her. Ooh, said Dana and Jenny. No, take her dancing, said Marian, and hold her real close. Ooh, said three Erics. Eric laughed. You kids are crazy, he said. You're scared of her, aren't you? Said Eric Bacon. You shouldn't be scared, said Eric Evans. You're bigger than and stronger and faster than anyone on the playground. And you've got the best mustache too, said Eric Fry. I'm not afraid of her, Louis trying to explain. It's just... He looked up at the very tall school. Miss Nogard is way high up there and I'm way down low here. You'll understand someday when you're older. He picked up the ball and threw it way high up. It hit somewhere between the 18th and 20th story. It never came down. There was no 19th story.